guys, if you're new here, my name is Sam and I make videos about makeup, chronic illness, and whatever I want. This video is really personal to me because it's something that I really wish I would have had when I first got sick, and it is 10 tips to survive with CFS ME. I've noticed that with long COVID, it is rapidly turning into CFS ME quickly, and so there's going to be a lot of people looking for information and help and just support. And I think it's important to just put this out there for people who have been struggling for a while and also just newcomers to this illness. Well, there's no morality in having this illness. I will say, having it personally, I truly wouldn't wish this on anyone, and I'm very sorry that you're struggling. If you're newly diagnosed, maybe you're watching this to help someone, help a loved one. It's an incredibly life-shattering disease. This video is what I wish I would have had, because I think I could be in a totally different position now in my life had someone been able to offer me these tips. So I'm just going to get into my little list. This first one, you need to remember that you are your biggest advocate and everything you're feeling is real and completely valid. No matter what anyone, a doctor, your loved ones, no matter what anyone says, it's all very real and it's all very valid. And the one thing you're going to learn in my list, but also in having a chronic illness, is doctors are not the be-all, end-all. There are some bad doctors. I've had plenty of experiences. You can see my medical gaslighting video. You know yourself and your body better than anyone else. Any medical professional, any human being on the planet. Nobody knows what's happening inside of you better than you, because you can feel it and you know when something's different and you know when something's wrong. You tend to, when you get sick, look to other people for support, and sometimes their negativity turns into your internal voice. It's just not accurate. You'll hear, maybe I'm not trying hard enough, maybe I am exaggerating. You'll start to doubt yourself and gaslight yourself, and you need to straight out the gate realize that that's not right. That's not my truth. That's not what's happening. You need to preserve yourself and realize that everything that's happening is your truth. You're not making this up. We give up careers, we give up education, we give up friends, family, we give up sometimes our possessions to pay for medical bills. Nobody would live this life if it wasn't forced upon us. It isn't fun. There's zero benefits. When everyone else is doubting you, don't let yourself be one of those people, because it makes it that much harder. This next one on the list is rest. I know this is easier said than done, but it is the one thing that can either help you or take you to a dark place quickly. We're conditioned to believe that our productivity impacts our worth for some reason. So if you nap too much or you don't work hard enough or whatever, you are somehow less valuable, which is just a load of shit. That's literally just taught to us to get us to not complain about working conditions. You offer so many more things to the world than just what you do in an office or, your retail establishment. That isn't you, and that is not your worth. Resting will save your life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I mean it. It's absolutely serious. The one issue you have with CFS ME is something called PEM, which I've talked about in my video regarding this disease, which I will link. Your body cannot tolerate the amount of work physically and mentally that it did before pre-illness, because your immune system is always going at 100. And if you push your body to exert even more energy, you're just going to crash. And that is going to result in permanent damage of your cells. I mean permanent. You can't reverse it. This is the one thing I wish I knew back when I got sick. So when your body tells you to rest, listen. Because you might know your body best, but your body knows itself better than you do. So when it tells you to do something, you need to listen. We're notorious for not listening to the things our body tells us, because whether society or somebody else has told us to ignore the primal things that our body is telling us. It tells us when it's hungry, it tells us when it's thirsty, it tells us when it's tired, but we are very conditioned to hit override and not listen. Something else with rest is you need to plan your activities around resting, which sounds kind of bizarre, but I promise it works. If you need to do the dishes, consider getting a stool if you don't have one and sitting to conserve energy. Sometimes you'll have to stop in the middle of the dishes and lie down like I do. Sometimes you'll be folding laundry and only get half of it folded and need to take a break. And you need to listen when your body is telling you, like, this is enough. Your brain is going to say, you've only folded 2 shirts. How are you tired? Don't care. We're not listening to the brain. We're listening to the body. If your body is tired, you need to listen. You need to rest. Sometimes you'll need to use a wheelchair in a store, and there's no shame in that because self-preservation is key here. Moving from rest, we have pacing. So pacing is literally just what it sounds like, pacing your activity. You need to figure out where your limits are and pace yourself within those limits. For me, like, I have more or less learned my limits, but something else I really have to pay attention to is my heart rate. If my heart rate goes above a certain number, then I will crash and I will be not having a good time. The unfortunate thing is my heart rate will increase when I stand up, sometimes if I'm sitting too long. So yes, that does require me having to lay down a lot, and that's not ideal, but I do what I have to do to keep myself alive. And again, that might sound dramatic, but seriously, this disease can kill you, and it has killed people if it gets too severe because you stop functioning. Your body stops functioning and it just shuts down. We don't want to get to that point. So that's why we're going to follow all these tips. Another key item that I learned from somebody on the internet is save your most tiring task for the end of the day. So let's say for you, washing the dishes is the one thing that really wipes you out. Do not start your day with washing the dishes because that's the only thing you're going to do that day. So start your day doing smaller tasks, and whatever is the most tiring, do at the end of the day. For me, example, filming these videos is incredibly tiring and taxing, so I do it at the end of my day. I think it's like 10 o'clock. It's later than I would normally do it, but I'm getting used to my summer schedule when everyone's loud outside. So really figure out a pacing schedule that works for you. I highly, highly recommend a heart rate monitor because even if you don't have POTS like I do, keeping your heart rate under certain numbers will prevent PEM. It's almost like how people like to target their heart rate to be high to, I don't know, burn calories or whatever they do. You want to do the opposite. You want to keep your heart rate low. This next one is probably the hardest tip on the list, and that is accept that this is your reality and learn to ask for help. I'm still terrible when it comes to asking for help. I hate asking for help. I'm an overly independent person to a fault, and, that's kind of some of my own trauma issues that I have to deal with. But asking for help is a great way to incorporate rest and pacing. A lot of these things just go hand in hand here. Asking for help keeps you from overdoing it. It keeps you from hitting PEM. So it's incredibly important to do. Accepting reality that you're here now. This is your life. You are disabled no matter what anyone else says or believes you are. And you've lost your ability to do a lot of things. It's a grief. You have to grieve your previous life. You have to grieve a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. It is a death in a sense, and it's incredibly hard. I do recommend therapy if you have the option to do so. I have done therapy since I've gotten sick off and on. As things change in your life, maybe you take a break, but then you have to go back. Like for me, I had some illnesses that made me even more disabled than just this. 2017, I got a very bad lung infection. It took 16 months to treat. I've been worse off since then, and then I got pneumonia in 2020, and then I actually got Miss Rona last year, so I am even more limited than where I started, and I have other issues popping up. I'm scared to get sick again. I have some agoraphobia happening now at this point. I have to leave the house tomorrow and I'm panicking about it because I don't want to go into a doctor's office, but I have to. That's another form of asking for help. Asking for the guidance of a therapist to help you grieve the changes of your life and help you accept that this is your reality. The next one is you should find a doctor and also lower your expectations of the medical community. I know a lot of people who haven't been sick before have very high expectations of what medicine and the medical community will offer you, and I'm here to tell you that all of the things that you think you know are probably wrong. It's not like a TV show. Most doctors don't care about you. Most doctors won't believe you. You're in for a lot of fighting, a lot of being upset, a lot of frustration, a lot of changing doctors until you find one who will even run tests rather than tell you you have a psychological problem. Even to this day, I still have doctors who don't believe me, don't want to help me, just don't care. It is one of the most upsetting parts, I would say, besides like losing your ability to do normal tasks, because I have people come to me like, well, just get treatment. There's no treatment for this disease. There's honestly not good treatment for most diseases. Everyone just kind of assumes there's a pill that will cure or fix anything, but that's not the case, which is very unfortunate. I wish there were better answers here. Do not be afraid to change doctors. I know some people are afraid of being labeled like doctor hoppers, but why would you stay with a doctor who's literally refusing to help you or calling you a liar? Like, you definitely deserve proper treatment. You, going back to the first tip, are your best advocate. You'd like to think that doctors care about you, and some do. There are amazing doctors out there, but unfortunately we have a shortage of doctors, which means the few good ones that are there are really booked and aren't accepting new patients, and then you're left with everyone else who isn't very understanding or are just there for a paycheck, basically. So don't be afraid to follow your gut in this situation. If you don't click with a doctor or they make you uncomfortable, don't go back. Just don't do it. This next one, you will have dietary changes that you need to make. There are so many comorbid illnesses with CFS MD that you're likely to have some kind of intestinal issue, such as heartburn, IBS, maybe some kind of food intolerance, and you're also probably going to have some sort of vitamin deficiency. So that means there may be foods you need to add to your diet. There may be foods you need to remove. You may need to add or remove supplements. These are all things that you also need to take into consideration, which I don't think a lot of people realize it. They hear chronic fatigue syndrome and are just like, oh, like, so you take naps a lot. No, it's a full body disease, and I ended up with IBS. I have, since Miss Rona, gotten some food intolerances that I did not have before. I did have a lactose intolerance, a mild one pre-Rona, but now I'm dealing with some sensitivity to fructose and gluten, and it's thrown my life all over the place because it's hard. It's hard to do that. If you're noticing a comorbid intestinal issue, you're not crazy. You should see an intestinal doctor to really figure out what is happening. I got diagnosed with IBS after endless testing, but I also have acid reflux. Acid reflux could be new. There are certain foods you need to avoid, like super acidic foods. I've had the endoscopies and all the testing and stuff, so that's how I got my diagnoses. I don't know how you want to say that. That is something that you need to pay attention to, especially when it comes to vitamin deficiencies. Like, I'm deficient in C, B12, and D, mostly because B12 is because my acid reflux medication makes it hard for my intestine to absorb B12. And vitamin D, I wear a lot of sunscreen because some of my other medications make me photosensitive, and I just don't go outside very often, so I'm not getting a lot of vitamin D. I think most Americans are deficient in vitamin D. But All those things are really important to your immune system. You want to make sure that you're up to date with all those things. And you might not always be able to absorb them from foods, like my B12 situation. Sometimes your body just can't absorb them naturally for food. It doesn't mean you're not eating well enough. It just means your body's just struggling a little more. So pay attention to any dietary and supplement changes that might need to occur. Use aids, both physically and mentally. That's wheelchairs, canes, crutches, seating, like, sitting to wash the dishes, braces of any kind, and mentally, planners, notepads, reminders, extra alarms. I use a planner to chart the things I need to do because with brain fog, you get really forgetful. I keep notes for everything. I put post-its all over the place. I have alarms in my phone. Like, really take advantage of those reminders. And for physical aids, like, I have a wrist brace because I hurt my wrist. I do have a cane. I will use a wheelchair or a motorized cart if I need to and I'm at a place. I do sit when I'm doing tasks. I have a chair in my bathroom for brushing my teeth, like a folding chair. Don't be afraid to use accessibility aids. I know it's easy to tell yourself, like, I don't need this because there's somebody who's more disabled. But I promise you, those people would also tell you to please use the aid. You wouldn't not wear glasses if your vision was blurry. So why would you force yourself to do other things when something that can assist you would make it easier or better? On the note of aids, this next one is test out things that can make your life more comfortable. Heating pads, ice packs, creams like Biogel or Aspercream. What's that stuff? I have brain fog right now. It's like, oh my god. I have this on airplane mode. My brain is farting so hard. So, like, there are supplements that aren't marijuana, without the THC. What the heck are they called? I feel like my brain just melted out of my ears. Those type of items, try things out. Maybe a knee brace will help. Maybe a special pillow. Like, a friend told me to try one of those pregnancy pillows with my pressure points to make lying on the couch more comfortable or lying in bed more comfortable. I have a whole video about, like, gift ideas for chronic illness. Try a bunch of those things. Anything to make your life more comfortable and just overall better in general. Like, definitely try that. CBD oil. Oh my god. Took me like 5 minutes. Moving on. And the final two. Use educational tools as much as you can to learn about this illness. My videos don't have all the information. I will link, obviously, the video to the disease, talking about my symptoms and what it does and what the disease itself does, but there are endless other resources, from medical journals to doctors to people who are just a lot more well-spoken than I am, because you just saw I'm not great with words. These are just like personal anecdotes of mine, but really research through things like ME Action. I will leave a bunch of resources in the description. Like, read about this illness and learn how much more serious it is. It's not just being tired. It's not just having sore muscles. It's a very complex disease, and you can be the best advocate for yourself in every setting, whether it's professional, medical, or personal. If you know this disease as well as you can, it's a lot easier for you to advocate for yourself when you know what this disease does and doesn't do. And my last one, use online support systems that exist. There are subreddits, there are forums, there are chronic illness communities on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. And it's probably one of the best things that's happened to me. I found some good friends, but the endless support and knowing you're not alone, the tips and tricks, the place to just talk about how you're struggling and other people understand without judgment is incredibly helpful to your mental health. To know that other people have experienced this and aren't questioning what you're saying. Is in this position, you spend a lot of time doubting yourself and explaining yourself. It's nice to be in communities where you could just exist. If you just want to talk about your cat or what you did today, or celebrate your accomplishment that you took a shower, you can do that there, and people will be so supportive and happy. And I just highly recommend it. When I first got sick, the internet was still fairly new, which sounds wild. I guess I should say it was fairly new compared to now. The things we have now didn't really exist. There weren't really forums, there weren't things of that nature. So take advantage of the things that exist now that many of us didn't have for many years. We were completely isolated and alone. You will learn so much about the illness, how to manage the illness, but you will also just feel a lot of compassion and support, and that's very important in this situation. I'm sorry for you or your loved one who has to learn this lifestyle, because it truly isn't easy and it is hard, but it's doable, it's possible, and you can do it. You could do it, your loved one can do it. Don't give up. I know it seems so easy to, and some days you want to, some days, even now, all these years later, I do too, but I don't. That moment will pass, that feeling will pass, and people love and care about you and want you here. You have so much more to offer than your health. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something. I hope I was able to help you out in some way. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm trying really hard to grow my channel this year, so any interaction helps. If you have more tips, let's say you have this illness as well, please leave them in the comments. If you have questions, please let me know. I love answering the questions and talking to you guys in the comments. And I will see you guys next time.